Magnets are dead. Bring on the era of the 3.5mm audio jack. Nice. So none of this is glued right now. I just want to make sure I have all the sub-assemblies ready. This front plate here has this little piece that goes on top that I want to make sure I've glued far enough away from the barrel so it can spin without gumming up the motor, chipping any of the paint or any of that. So I'm going to take a piece of paper towel, fold it in half, put it underneath so that I can glue this on top, and that'll give me a little bit of space. Now we get to the inner workings of this. Now I've 3D designed and 3D printed the barrel as well as this motor housing. The motor housing also has a little notch specifically for the LED that is directly behind each of the barrels on the Gatling barrel. That way I can have everything lined up. It is kind of glowing through everything right now, but I'm going to put some fiber optics on there and some paint and do a couple little other tricks, and that should get us there. Now, if you want access to these files, all of my patrons have access to these 3D files, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that I've designed. So this piece that I've designed actually fills the space even better than I was hoping for, and I can glue it in place and still barely slip the motor in. That will be a nice advantage so I don't accidentally get super glue into any of the gears. I'm using a geared down motor to make sure that the speed of the barrel isn't too high, so I get a little bit more of a flash from each barrel, and that way it also doesn't vibrate because it's spinning so fast. So I've used 2-part epoxy resin to put all of the fiber optics in here. That's one of the few things fiber optics doesn't react weird to. So as you can see here, it's definitely giving me a light through each barrel, but it's also kind of giving me a light through all of the barrels, which is a problem that I'm going to have to solve, but we get there in the end. So how are we going to solve that problem? Well, I have this nice old brass etching that Forge World used to make, and there's a nice spot here at the bottom that has basically no valid things that I'm ever going to want to cut out of it. It's just pretty much a piece of flat brass. And what we're going to do is basically cut a little washer that has a hole cut on the top that'll let the light through at just the barrel, and this will block the light of all of the other barrels. This will also kind of add as a little bit of a friction plate in between so it's not plastic on plastic. And once I've refined this down, it'll actually key into this hole, and as you can see, it'll only light up each barrel. It does kind of give a little bit of light through the main body of it, but in the end, this will all get painted and you won't be able to tell. I think it's working pretty well, so I can move on from this point. Brace yourselves, it's time to go into the technical stuff. So here's a simple Tinkercad breadboard that I've set up to show you exactly how I made the driver board for the motor, because motors will kill an Arduino if you're not careful on how you use them. The key thing is to get your diode in the correct direction. If you look at the RPMs of the current motor right now, it's about 7,500. If I take this diode right here and I flip it around, watch what happens to the RPM. It drops to around 1,200, and that's because you're shorting through that diode. It's got to go the other way to protect your Arduino and to give your motor power. If you want a whole video on this, let me know in the comments. I'm using some strip board to actually make this little piece of circuit board. It's pretty easy. If you have any questions, as always, just leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to help you out. The arm joints don't actually fit with the motor inside, so I'm going to have to cut a nice flat spot at the bottom of these to be able to actually glue them in place. And now that they actually fit, I can start gluing these and routing all the wires up and through and into the arm joint, just like I've done with all of the other pieces. So now it's final assembly time, where I get to take all the bits and bobs and make sure they go in the right place, and I get all the wiring to go through where I want it to. This is basically the same as all of the other arms that I've done. I'm taking the magnet wire to wire it up, and then I'm going to wire this all to colored wire so I know which one's which. The motor wires are both going to be the same color because I actually don't care whether or not it's spinning left or to the right. I don't even know which way in the end it ended up spinning, but that wasn't important to me, so I didn't care about which one was which. And then the LED, of course, is important. And again, I'm using a LED driver for all of these nights that I've been doing, so I'm going to wire the positive directly and then the negative to the actual driver board, and that'll drive the LED and make it turn on and off when I want it to. And with a little bit of TV magic, it's all done. Now all I have to do is put these little lugs on here and put this last piece on, and it'll be ready to go. The barrel needs to get painted separately and is a press fit onto the motor pin. So let's test it out. Now I do think that the motor pin might be a little bit off, or the 3D print is off, because the barrel does wobble a little bit, but I'm okay with that. Now I can add this lovely little motor driver board and all of these other great wires to this huge mess that I've made. Luckily for you guys though, I've actually already finished this model. And that's how I did the Gatling cannon on my night. I'd like to thank my patrons, Justin, Jonathan, Axel, Felix, Dominic, and Waystone Wargaming for helping support this channel. If you'd like to become a patron and get access to all the 3D files, the Arduino code, and the sounds that I've been using on this, there's a link in the description. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to help you guys out. Thanks for watching.